Let's now look at another big number. We want to look at Prime Minister Modi's performance as Prime Minister of the country over the last 6 months since the last poll in February. Gaurav, over to you.
So this is the 46th India Today Mood of the nation. The C-Voter survey, when it talks about the Prime Minister's popularity, performance of the Prime Minister, August 2025, the latest figures say it's at 58%. So from a high of 72% in January 2023 to 63% in August 2023 to 61% in February 2024, it's 58% currently. Those who say his performance has been poor, that figure is at 26% in the month of August. The others are don't know, can't say. So all the challenges, Sindoor high, and of course the narrative battle, as many spoke of, that India did not win despite winning on ground, and the Trump tariffs. Challenges plenty, popularity at 58%, Rajdeep.
Interesting, and I want to draw a tracker of this, Yashwant Deshmukh, and you can give us a quick first comment on that. In January 2023, the Prime Minister was rated good performance. That's 2023, 72%. That was a peak that he had reached. And today it is 58%. In August 2024, a year ago, it was 59%. What we are seeing, and this is a point we made earlier, has the Prime Minister's popularity plateaued? Yes, he's the BJP's biggest vote catcher still, but has his popularity plateaued? A quick answer.
Well, if you look at the graph, it seems like yes. I mean, that's the statistical answer of being plateaued when the graph
or actually come down a bit.
Or come down a bit. But electorally speaking, how long do you expect a man to continue trending at 50% plus after remaining 11 years in power? When was the last time you heard anything like that? Entire, not just in India, whichever state in India or surrounding countries or globally speaking. So I think attrition, electorally speaking, attrition of popularity, attrition of vote share is a very normal thing to happen. What is abnormal about this number is actually this degradation is not as sharp as globally or within India. The electoral history keeps on reminding us for other leaders and other states.
That's a good point. 11 years in power and still your popularity is reasonably high. 60 would suggest first class, at least that's the way I see it, but 58% also not bad. Mr. Modi's popularity still remains, it appears, much higher than his party. And even if there is creeping anti-incumbency, it's not so much against the individual Narendra Modi, it may be against states and individual leaders.
I think what Yashwant said is quite correct, in the sense that it's remarkable that an individual who's in his 12th year in power comes up with numbers that are above 50%. So let's give full credit to it. And there is a reason for that. If you look at the peaks that he had, that 72%, this comes, if I recall, just after COVID. First, he has a devastating fall in terms of, compared to his numbers, a drop in his popularity. And then he bounces right back and comes up with 72% because people think he's handled COVID finally well. There was a lot of criticism in the first phase of COVID, but after that he recovers. So what we are seeing now with Mr. Modi is not just a plateau, but the fact is that we are at crunch time. And some of that impact is being felt in terms of a very sobering reality that is happening in terms of the numbers going down, not only for Mr. Modi, percentage-wise from the highs that he had in February, but also for the BJP and the NDA. Those numbers are down because we are in a state of crisis. Now, what Mr. Modi does to handle, and let's look at it, in his track record has shown that every time there's been adversity, he comes out the better. So that's his, and whether he's going to break that track record is to be seen, but I think in the next couple of months, we will see that operating. He lost a bit, I felt, in terms of the narrative in Operation Sindoor, did well to strike back and strike deep into Pakistan, but then allowed that narrative to, or maybe got hijacked by Donald Trump in what he did by claiming that he had stopped the war. But he has this chance now, and you can see that Independence Day speech that he spoke about, which he realizes that it is crunch time for the economy, next generation reforms are there. If there's a person in crisis who's best equipped to handle this, it's Prime Minister Modi at the moment.
We've seen also...
And that's the results of the poll. That's why
yeah, sure. But we've seen this also between COVID 2.0 when his popularity dipped And then by January 2023, it was back at a high at 72%. Anyone else? First
That's
remarks to what these numbers show. 58%, should that be seen as a very good rating or a clear plateauing of Prime Minister Modi's performance as Prime Minister?
You know, Morning Consult puts his popularity rating, global popularity rating at 75%. He's seen as the world's most popular leader, much higher than a Donald Trump or other world leaders. He's seen as someone who's really hands-on. So if you look at it, all the international awards that he gets for India, as he says, it just goes on to indicate that he's working non-stop for the nation.
You know, Rajdeep, all I'd say is I think 58% after 11 years is commendable. And why I say that is, juxtapose it on the performance of his party and his government. He's got better figures there after 11 years. By the virtue of that fact, I think it's commendable, but there is this other train that one can look at. He's been the symbol of nationalism, where it's come down to the voters. One of the biggest, I would think, adversity that would have made our Prime Minister look even bigger, larger than life, would have been Operation Sindoor. And I would reckon, if we go by the old figures of the Balakot airstrike, like Yashwantji has pointed out, there was a huge surge. We saw it on ground and we saw it in figures as well. That hasn't quite happened. So somewhere down the line, possibly the nationalism narrative was dented, A, by the opposition and Donald Trump.
Remember, BJP's vote percentage was around 40-41%. Prime Minister's performance as good as 58%. So Prime Minister tends to outperform his own party. But Maria, your first reaction?
Is hyper-nationalism or perhaps that Hindutva sentiment overshadowing the governance agenda? The government would want the governance to take center stage, but then there is this narrative around Operation Sindoor. If we were to look at those, in what has happened in the last 18 months, there is a consecration ceremony which happens in 2024 January. That leads to the peak. And
Ram Mandir.
Ram Mandir. And then there is Operation Sindoor, which is there. But in between all this is an important decision which is announced for the middle class, which is again the income tax cut, which perhaps should be discussed more, but it is not being done. But it is not reflecting as much. So, Rajdeep, the sense certainly is that there has to be a reworking of the communication strategy, going back to the governance taking center stage, not as much as as we are seeing in the context of Hindutva.
It's very interesting the way the Prime Minister's popularity seems almost untouched by what the other criticisms of this government are.